Have you ever heard of the man who broke the Bank of England? It sounds like something out of a heist movie, but this is a true story. And the man behind it, George Soros, didn't use dynamite or safecrackers. He used his mind, and in a single day, he walked away with a profit of $1 billion. This is the story of one of the most audacious financial bets in history. To understand how he did it, we need to go back to the early 1990s. Europe was trying to create a more unified economy through something called the European Exchange Rate Mechanism, or ERM. Think of it as a club for currencies. The idea was to keep the values of different European currencies stable against each other, mainly pegged to Germany's powerful Deutsche Mark. Britain joined this club, promising to keep the value of its pound sterling within a narrow band. The problem was, Britain's economy wasn't as strong as Germany's. High inflation and a struggling economy meant the pound was fundamentally overvalued. Keeping it propped up was like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. Sooner or later, it was bound to shoot to the surface. And this is where George Soros and his legendary quantum fund enter the picture. Soros saw this economic tension not as a problem, but as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. He recognized that the British government's promise to defend the pound was a bluff they couldn't possibly maintain. So he decided to call it. His strategy was what's known as shorting the currency. In simple terms, he bet that the pound would fall. The quantum fund began borrowing massive amounts of British pounds, billions of them. And as soon as they borrowed them, they immediately sold them for other, stronger currencies, like the German mark. The logic was simple. If the pound's value crashed, they could buy back the pounds they needed to repay their loans for a much cheaper price, and the difference would be pure profit. They weren't just dipping their toes in the water. They were building a tidal wave of selling pressure, betting everything on the pound's collapse. This all came to a head on one dramatic day. Wednesday, September 16th, 1992. History now calls it Black Wednesday. The Bank of England, the central bank of the United Kingdom, was in full-blown crisis mode. They were legally obligated to defend the pound's value. To do this, they started buying up pounds on the open market, trying to counteract the massive selling pressure from Soros and other speculators who had followed his lead. But it was like trying to empty the ocean with a bucket. The selling was relentless. In a desperate move, the government announced they were hiking interest rates from an already high 10% all the way up to 12%. This was meant to attract foreign investors to buy pounds. But the market didn't flinch. Soros's wave was too powerful. In a final panicked act, the government announced a further interest rate hike to a crippling 15%. Still, nothing. The market had lost all faith. By the evening of Black Wednesday, the battle was over. The British government had to face reality. They had spent billions of their own reserves in a futile attempt to prop up their currency. Defeated, they announced they were pulling the pound sterling out of the ERM and would let its value float freely, determined by the market. And just as Soros had predicted, it didn't float, it sank. The pound plummeted in value against the US dollar and the German mark. For the British government, it was a national humiliation. For George Soros, it was payday. His fund now used the stronger currencies they held to buy back the cheapened pounds they needed to repay their loans. The difference left over from this single trade was an estimated $1 billion. It was one of the greatest financial trades of all time. The event cemented Soros's status as a financial legend, the man who broke the Bank of England, and it had profound, lasting effects on Britain's economy and its skeptical relationship with the rest of Europe. It's a powerful reminder that in the world of global finance, fortunes can be made and lost in the blink of an eye. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this story, be sure to like and subscribe for more.